over stroking. That's what I be doing. No, I just used to y'all said
from London to the Queen. This hammer, gold hammer, every hammer, dirty hammer. And the rest is on its way to festive.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
I'll mute that one. That's good. Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. And Wednesday. This Wednesday actually wasn't Wednesday, and as bad as the other was half some days. It has definitely been a Wednesday. As always, we are here live at 7 p.m. Today, we are doing a little. So going forward, what you will notice from us is every Wednesday of the month we'll have. And the second Wednesday of the month will always be our entrepreneurial conversation. And what better way to kick it off than with Coach K? And we're going to talk about a question that, since working with Kicking It with Dads, we hear a lot about non-profit. You see what we told you? Didn't we tell you what's going to happen? It's a big degree.
Y'all gave him a seat and all.
And the one thing Coach K is going to talk about today with nonprofit organizations, business, grants.
Don't let her do you like that.
Much more. But certainly we really wanted to have her come in because the box in all ways possible, from being an entrepreneur to being even helping people take their visions and make it their legacies. We're going to ask a lot of questions. We're going to encourage you all, the guests, to ask a tremendous. If you ever dreamed about a nonprofit, thought about a nonprofit, if you're a nonprofit, today is your chance to ask what you need to ask. March 18th, right?
March 18th. That's the next one.
So without further,
let's hear about March 18th.
oh yes, we're going to let Coach K introduce yourself, and then we'll get all into March 18th and everything that's coming.
Awesome. Well, I have to thank you guys. My friend Herc. Seriously, grateful to be here. Anytime I can share information about what I passions, it's always a good thing. It's always an exciting time. I have figured out a way to monetize work and my purpose, and I get to help other servant leaders serve better. This industry a long time. I've worked in a variety of different. I started it basically being told no, and clients who use these words, and I had never thought of it that way. But she said, "You did a sit-in at welfare," and I didn't think. Just know they told me no, and I didn't move, and I didn't leave. And so
His wheels are spinning.
well, that was probably what it could have been called, but I didn't leave until they figured out a solution to help me with my child. And I understood that it was a problem that I needed school part-time, not full-time. I had my paperwork that said that I only go part-time.
Right.
So I knew that it was I have to figure out what we're going to do, because this 3-year-old got to go to school. So leave. And when I didn't leave, finally, after the supervisor had come and told me the same thing the worker told me, person who came up, and I remember her just as clear as day, floating over, and she wet. And I said, whatever she said, I'm and so they gave me these forms. I went, did what I need to do. So I go home, I'm working on a client, Cynthia Anderson. I will never forget all of this. So Cynthia, take the papers and go to see Michelle Peavy. I said, okay, I'm gonna go see Michelle. I go to see Michelle Peavy. She told me where to go. And I get Hoboken Avenue. This is all in Jersey. So I said, talk to you and maybe you can help me. And I explained the situation. She filled out my form. I took them back and everything. Still not understanding. I had no clue. And so it wasn't until after I finished that I understood that what I did was I signed up for a community work program, CWET. Well, a group home for Lutheran Social Ministries for kids 6 to 12 years old.
Right.
Became a community worker in this group home for free for benefit of childcare. And it totally changed the whole trajectory of my career. It was my very first social service experience, my first time in that capacity. I've done summer camp type stuff, but I 20, he was 3, and last year he just turned.
So you did your first sit-in 27 years ago.
But that's how I got started, and from that position, I went to Covenant House 9 line over in New York City. I worked crisis things with them, and then I worked with arsonists and pedophiles. I ran a battered woman shelter. Oh yeah, they got to have people too. The job coach for developmentally disabled folks. I did a thing after the other, all working my way through school. And when I finally finished, that's when I became the coordinator for a battered women's program and went from there. And so being here in 12 years now, it really, I had one here, and I did a 4-year bid at Department of Mental Health. 4 years. You ever been that, Brian? I left there saying I'm either going to have to stay with a white man on my wrist with some silver handcuffs. It was one or the other, and so and that's where I met your buddy Daryl,
Right.
as he was studying for his real writing social service programs. So that's what we did while we watched the site.
Build a dream while working for the team. I don't see a problem with it.
Not even a little bit. So that's kind of where it started. But I also all those different positions, and I kind of got a feel from management, and then of course starting my own back in 2006 is when I started and that was My Sister's Keeper with a bunch of females from My Sister Keeper motorcycle.
You gonna tell him your name?
Spice with a Y.
I knew he was gonna tell.
Spice with a Y.
Spice with
Things
a
you
Y.
find out about Kawan. The best in my closet.
I couldn't imagine.
You can imagine. Yeah, when I came, they had already had their bylaws and everything, and I was like, okay. As an organization, it was like, how do at that time we were just doing like domestic violence, helping out here, making little bags for women, cleaning up playgrounds, that kind of stuff. But we wanted, and so we became a full-fledged My Sister Keeper associate.
let me ask you something. But so long, and everybody trying to get a nonprofit or 501c3. What's the purpose of a 501c3, and how do you go wrong when getting into 501c3 thinking that you?
Well, first of all, people shouldn't think that they. The passion and the purpose comes first before you go and tangle. I want people to understand that everybody do something, whether it's collect money for kids who can't afford the school lunch, whatever it might be. It doesn't necessarily mean start a business to do it. A nonprofit organization is a business. It's the state that you're in as well as the federal government, and you don't need that in order. do the work of the good able to do. If you want to have a barbecue with dads, you can have a barbecue with dads. If you donate to you, if they want to donate to you, they can, whether you're a 501 or not, if they choose to. We found out in one of my conferences that you, as a for-profit state for a charitable particular purpose and raise money specific and do it where you are recognized as a charity. That arm of what you do is a charity, and the state will give you a charity ID for it here in South Carolina. So what I want people to know is, don't let it the good work that you want to do. And there's so many partners. There's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. That is, I try to deter people as much as I can. I love it when they there's great ideas, but if you don't know who your competition is, in some silo that you don't know that there's a chick right down the street doing the same thing. You stand out. What makes you different? I understand that your mom died of breast cancer and you want. What are you going to do to make you different from every other fish fry, every other whatever? Like how do you make your? And that's a business conversation.
Right.
You know,
Basically,
should be, because you're talking about starting a business, even if it's coming from a great mission. And it's not necessary if you just want to do the work first. And people also, you know, what's the point of the 501? Because they want to get the grants.
what's the benefits of having a non? Say it again, bro.
So
The benefit
what's
is
the
that
benefits?
you are recognized by the federal government as a charitable organization, which also means that they can look at your books. They want to see how much money you're bringing in. And it's not necessary if you just want to do the work. As much from doing it, I start quite a few. But yes, benefits if you want to start a business that has a charitable cause. To be able to raise money, to be able to continue to do what it is that God has called you to get it. What are some of the benefits? The absolute best partner with all other organizations to be able to apply for grants and different things like that. Some folks will not give you money, without you being I get it. It should not deter you from doing the work. You're going to do it regardless.
Right.
Well, if it's what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
What is a nonprofit organization? I know they're asking what's the benefits, but
It is a business that has a charitable cause. It is a business that not for a purpose of your personal benefit. The business, most businesses, when you get into business, LLC, corporation, that those are specifically for you to make money, and you it on. A nonprofit organization, it's not that nonprofits don't make money. Cause they make money for the mission. The mission has to be outlined. When you forms to the IRS, you're saying that this is why we're doing this business. I want you to tax us. This is why we're asking you to be exempt as this company that serves this purpose. That the other business, the purpose is to make money, right?
Right, the purpose is to make money.
Right. This here to, whatever your objectives are, to provide a place for whatever, keep kids, from this or, decrease poverty, whatever the mission is. But the mission has to be clear. I've had them say, okay, you said that you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this. It was a housing program. They wanted to know have to pay. They wanted all this stuff that most of the time when people they don't have that information. They just trying to get this status.
Right.
You have not what you charge, and you don't have a handbook, you don't have a lease, you don't all of the stuff for this. They are expecting you to have that because that's what you're telling them that you're going to. It doesn't say later.
Coming to them with now.
To them now. So if you're going to do transitional housing, what is serve, the ages, the how long will they stay? All of that stuff has to be worked.
How do you start a nonprofit?
It's an application. But it starts with those conversations because again, you have to be. For every state, every state has different. South Carolina, they have different processes. South Carolina has two processes. We have application, which is just for you to be recognized as a nonprofit or a registered organization company. Okay, you are. South Carolina also has another part, which is their charities division. If you are soliciting funds in the state of South Carolina, then you need to be registered. It's an annual registration. That is, the one time like when you get see, that's it. You don't have to do that again. You need to file your taxes and make sure that you are doing what you right. But with the charities, that is an annual registration. Show them because you are a public charity, they want to see your annual report. To see either your annual report, which is their form for out your money, how much money you brought in, what you're spending on fundraising, all of that. Annual report, or they will accept your 990 tax, which is the filing, for your personal taxes, you do a 1040. You get a 1040, easy for your personal taxes. If you have a business, you do a Schedule C with that, right? For your nonprofit, that is a 990 numbers because they got a lot.
They got a lot of numbers.
Yeah. So when you can do a 990 in, which is what they call the postcard, because you've not made more than $50,000. You have not raised. Whether it's hey, our girls I have made $15,000 3 years in a row. So we have been doing our 990 in. That's how we itemize for under $50,000. I can't remember the exact number. If you are under, okay, if you
I was going to say, they can't hear you, but I'm sure they'll be able to hear you now. Let me see which one it is. I think it's this one you guys got here. Okay. So you should be good now. All right, go back. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay, so what I was saying was to make sure that the state of South Carolina, if you're doing under $50,000, you have to do an annual report or a 990 EZ. If you do the EZ, it will go for the state of South Carolina. You don't have to do an annual report. They will accept either one.
Okay. I heard you say earlier when you say you try to talk to all your clients to let them know that if they just have a passion, they don't have to have a 501c3, they could just do it from LLC. And they hate me for this. What percentile would you say those that you try to recommend to just go about it to those that go in and actually fail? And what are some of the common mistakes that they make along the way?
Okay, that's two different questions.
Yes.
Okay, so oftentimes people will disappear. They once I have the conversation with them about all that's involved, they'll disappear, and it probably wasn't really a passion of theirs to begin with.
I stayed.
Yes, you did. Yes,
He's so
did.
different. Why he got to be so different?
Be there.
Absolutely. But the thing about it is, I had this one girlfriend. I'll never forget. This was years ago when I first started kind of pulling these conference type things together. And I only had, might have been 5 of us. In addition, I had someone from insurance. I had James Shad, the attorney, And we, you know, we're talking all this stuff. And she was like, okay, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. She was doing these women networking type events or whatever. She wanted it to be a nonprofit because she thought she would be able to get some additional funds. I don't know how you, I mean, people, you have, when you're thinking about a for-profit business and how you're going to make money and how you're going to pay yourself, it's a whole different conversation. When you're talking about you're going to be doing backpacks for kids and how you're going to get pay yourself. It's a whole different type of thing. So she decided, no, I don't. And she continued on doing what she was doing and do it in the LLC. Whatever you make, you do. You Schedule C on your taxes. It's not such a big deal. But I wish that more people would turn it down.
Because it makes sense though what she's saying. Just because you like to be good to people, don't mean you got to operate a nonprofit.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many doing the work. If it's about the work, and let me also say this, when it comes to grant funding and different things like that, you need to be in business for 2 years or so before anybody really giving you anything anyway. So
now that's a gem to pay attention to. You need to be in business for 2 years.
When you are looking at these, when you go and you're reading up what this grant is, most of them will say, you know, they're not for startups. They're for people doing the work.
Right.
There's a new grant that just came out from Central Carolina just now. It might have been closing very, very soon if it didn't already. Most of my organizations, including myself, fit everything except for this one thing. You had to have at least one full or part-time employee, W-2, not 1099.
This is for a nonprofit?
For a nonprofit. And it was specifically for you to be able to get $10,000 that you can do anything you needed to do within your organization. It was about capacity building. So for a company that is new, that is all about giving or whatever, that's just not, something that we have. A lot of times, and you can, a for-profit company may have been able to finagle it, whether it's, they either had someone that was an AmeriCorps or, a Vista or something, or, there's all kinds of different things. But those organizations who have something like that, even if it's just the founder who is paying themselves, that's not usually my typical nonprofit. That's grassroots out here just trying to help the kids.
You've given us a lot, and this is for anyone who's just coming in right now.
So who's gonna be the W-2 for KIW?
That's what thinking. W-2.
Who's gonna be the?
Oh God!
It's like you can be You said you can be a for-profit business, so you can have an LLC. And still register as a charitable business.
Okay, so the example that she gave, and this was directly from Director of Charities at the Secretary of State. The example that she gave was a for-profit company that wanted to do something specifically for their employees, right? So they were doing, they were soliciting funds from the employees for a particular fund, okay? So, but in order for the employees to give to this fund, they wanted to not have to take taxes and, what have you. They didn't want all that mess up. So they got a charitable ID. And because they were soliciting funds and the employees were paying into it, I think it was something like a dress down day or whatever, something very simple that people were giving to. But whatever they were specifically going to be using the funds for, everything that they collected was going in specifically for that. It was not going to be administrative cost. There was no fundraising cost. It was raising money for a company, whatever, or to be able to give for families for this, whatever it was charitable because they were soliciting and the people were giving, and they didn't want to have to tax what they were putting in this pot for something that they were doing for the employees. So they got a charities ID in order to be able to solicit funds from their employees. It wasn't from outside. It was for their employees to be able to give money towards company picnic or whatever it was. But it was and she said a for-profit entity. So if you have a barbershop and you want to raise money for a nonprofit, you have an LLC. You do not have a nonprofit. They're the nonprofit that you want to give money to, but you want to solicit from your customers. Because you're soliciting funds, you need to be a registered charity in the state of South Carolina.
Okay. So
Because you're asking.
Tamika had a question. Hold on. Tamika was asking two questions, actually. She said she is definitely interested in getting a 501c3. Would that affect her LLC was the first part of her question. Then the other part was, so her business, which is an LLC, often gives back and does the work, but is not a nonprofit. Can she apply for a grant?
Okay, so there's two things. One, if you are an LLC and you're doing the work and what have you of a nonprofit, this is okay. Let me give you the example that worked for me. I created a curriculum for my program as under my nonprofit. I was working with women and so on. I wanted a curriculum that I could use within my program. Because I did not want it to belong to the nonprofit, even though I work for the nonprofit, I created a whole entity as LLC so that because my curriculum and everything that I do under that is mine.
It's yours.
It is mine. I can sell it. I can do what I want to do with it because it's my intellectual property. I suggest everyone, especially those who have nonprofits, when your books, your speaking engagements, anything that you are doing that is your brainchild, if you decide you don't want to do this nonprofit anymore, the work is going to continue if you get a good succession plan. You're not leaving your stuff.
Right.
I'm going to take my books and all of my stuff that I
Put
have
together.
packaged to sell, and my curriculums, all that stuff. It belongs to me. So my curriculum, I named it Journey Towards Purpose, but then I made Journey Towards Purpose LLC. So it's a separate company, and so now I shifted all of that working I was doing with people, women who want to start businesses and stuff like that. That might be a service I can do under the nonprofit, but when I'm over here, there's a fee attached to that.
Right.
And that became an LLC. So if you have fee for services, not that you can't say your clients, we need to have some skin in the game.
Right.
So if you have something that you're doing and you're charging $25, and even though it's a nonprofit, nonprofits do stuff and they have tickets, but they also have an opportunity for you to sponsor tickets. So I had a client say to me, because she was moving into trying to do some business stuff, she said, well, it seemed like everything is about money now. And I said, well, you shifted from client to colleague. So there's a difference. And it's not that as a client, there was no money involved. You just weren't the one paying the cost. It was still $25 a piece for y'all to come to that conference that you didn't pay to. Right. You didn't pay it. I got other people to pay those $25 for the women to be able to come. So it was never that there's always a dollar attached. Did you eat when you was there?
Cost. All that cost. Somebody got to pay for something.
Somebody got to pay for
it.
something.
When it's free, it's not free.
That's right.
But we have to change our thinking about stuff. And so what happens is we out here doing all this great stuff and free, and we let people come, and it's a nonprofit and they thinking you're getting all this money.
Yeah.
No, it ain't. So we make it look easy. See, and that's also why people, 1,000 people want to do it. But we make it look real easy. They don't know how you up all night and how you stepping over them bags that you was packing up, and you all they don't know what your living room look like and your garage look like and all that stuff.
Or the giant connect for your kids still play with.
Oh, what? I left that stuff at Hannah House. Thank Jesus. I've been moving stuff out of my office downtown. I could have used you. And so he said, every time you come in, you got more stuff. And, all the years of stuff, it just piles up. But those things, it costs.
It does.
Those bags from hello, everybody did the business credit and Uline. So we got cases and cases of bags and mailers and all of that stuff, So there's
all over the house.
All over the house. But I mean, there's a cost to it. So make sure that you are keeping track of what's under the nonprofit, and you are doing your budget, and you know how much it costs for that and how much it costs in your business.
So Tamika, to answer your question, yes, keep them separate.
Definitely.
And Dee said, Daryl, since you mentioned it, he watched, right? Right. What is the minimum amount the person needs to make their W-2?
They said it could be part-time. So at least 20 hours a week is paid under a W-2. So if they worked, 40 hours, but, they were paid, say, 24, and the rest could be considered in kind. I've done grant applications where, my salary was listed there as an in-kind donation to the nonprofit. Okay, so whatever I would have been making as the director, because there was no funds in the budget of the grant for it, so you couldn't afford that because say I'm going after the grant, it's only $30,000. So the full budget may look like it's 75,000 for this,
Right.
but because some of it was in kind, because technically I'm donating my time.
Got you. Okay, you're throwing a lot at me right here, but I want to ask
whole
you some
lot.
questions.
So can we pay him $213 like waiters to be covered?
Can we pay him $213 like a waiter?
I'm asking a question for a few of my fellow promoter friends because they do a lot of promotion, but at the same time they want to get back to the community.
Mhm.
So when they're having an event,
They can
As a
register
promoter.
as a nonprofit and get that registration for that event. So say if you're going to donate.
say they got a 501c3 already,
already? Okay. Well, then, go
and
ahead.
they do they got an LLC with promotions.
Mhm.
How are they able to differentiate between the two? Because are they raising money from the LLC to donate to the?
That's what they should have been doing. Yes.
So how can they utilize their talents for the LLC to generate funds
For the
do that?
nonprofit.
For the nonprofit as well.
Okay.
Well, if you are doing like a ticketed type of event or whatever, and you've from the beginning you decided percentage or $1 off of every or whatever it is that you're donating to the nonprofit, then whatever that dollar amount is, that's what it is. And you on your personal or business taxes using the EIN for the nonprofit, that's what you gave to them. A lot of times what happened years ago was people, before all of the different tax changes, people wanted to have nonprofits to donate to because mostly at the end of the year, everybody starts trying to get rid of
Money.
money. How many times I get people donating clothes and they want a receipt because they want to write it off on their taxes. That might have been great years ago. It doesn't. They're not giving you no real money for that no more.
No, they sure not. Standard deduction. Keep going.
Listen, those jeans might have been $45 on sale, and you were happy to give them to us, and you like those are all Levi's, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Because I get a
Those
lot
are
of
all Levi's.
I get a lot of that. People really, because when they have good stuff, you don't want to just give it to anywhere because you can give it and get a tax. I'm like, great, but when your tax professional tell you this ain't really worth much, in terms of really going to make a difference in your taxes, don't come looking at what do you want me to say? I mean, we gave you what you needed so you can claim it. Other than that, we ain't got nothing to do with it. But people want to do it because for some reason it became trendy.
Right.
Doing good for the community became trendy.
So the 501c, like you said, at the end of the year, people want to just give away money for charities and stuff. Like this is a good tax write-off for them. The purpose of that is really just so they can write it off on their taxes. Like if they just want to give it to me, I'm giving book bags to the kids, but I don't have a 501c. They're not going to give it to me because they can't write that off.
Right.
All right.
But those who want to give because they understand the mission and the purpose will still continue to give. Okay. There are plenty of churches out here who do not give you a statement at the end of the year of how much you've given. They're supposed to.
They are.
If they are registered, they're supposed to. You're supposed to get a receipt that you can take to your tax preparer and a legit, this is what I've given.
Jesus is watching.
Churches are nonprofits of Jesus watching.
Some are nonprofits. Not all have to be. That's why a lot of them did not have to be under the law when COVID came in.
When COVID came in, because they weren't registered as nonprofits, so they weren't controlled by the government.
That's how they be buying them jets.
Shut up.
But also, what
There's
a
not
lot
that
of
much
ministries,
tithing going on, bro.
remember, have you noticed that a lot of ministries are doing more of those, what do you call it, like type of centers? And, they're doing a separate building.
The daycares and the fitness and the youth centers and the.
There you go. Those are they are not under the same nonprofit as the church.
I'm thinking that those people were starting out because they didn't have a big enough church and were trying to get a church. They were just basically ducking some.
I mean, that's a part of it.
Different people, different strokes.
That's a part of it. I mean, because you can register with the state and don't necessarily do the IRS. But I mean, when it comes to grants and different things like that, those what do you call them? I can't think of. Oh God, there's a word for it. Those some type of centers. They're more resource type centers. It's going to come to me later. But in order to be able to get government funding, cooperative. There's a word for it, but those if you want to get funding and be able to get grants and different things like that, it's a separate entity.
So when they're trying to do things, because everybody, the nonprofit world always, it does. And that's kind of what deters people from doing it. Like the nonprofit sounds nice. I want to feed homeless people. I should go get a nonprofit. And then you go find someone to file the papers for you, like, oh, you charge $1,000. Then you realize they got to do 1,000 forms. And it's not just 1 year of forms. They keep doing forms.
Let me say this. And I think I'm going to be doing some things a little bit differently in terms of helping. And I did it with one of the girls she was at the last conference. Unless you keep me on retainer, I'm not responsible for your annual anything.
I agree with that.
If you are getting into bed with the IRS and the state of South Carolina and you refuse to do the work of figuring out what your annual responsibilities are, whether they are documents or whatever it is that you need to do, if you will not take a class, if you will not, hey, if you don't want to take a class, but you just want to stay with me, I can work it out, make sure you know what you need to do. But there's a cost for that.
And what is that price?
It varies depending on if you have an actual working board. I've done just some board trainings with folks. I've done, I had this, mostly guys, y'all just want to like, okay, so how much could this, how many meetings can we?
We just need to know
how much is it?
Yeah. And so, and it's so funny because one of my clients, he called a couple weeks ago and he said, "Oh, so my retainer ran out, huh?" Yeah.
So what if you're good friends with the host of a podcast?
Listen. I promise you, there are really people out there trying to kill people with their fees and what have you. My average rate is $75 an hour. So, I have people, I don't know. I've started doing all kinds of other stuff. I have people I'm working on trying to help with, I have 2 clients, actually 3, with home health companies. And, so it depends on what all we're doing. I don't know how I have veered off into, but when you do document preparation, if it's about researching and finding out how to get the documents and applications for licensing and different things like that, a lot of folks will not do the homework and will not, and it's like, okay, so if you just tell me all that I need to do, okay, well, that's the research piece. That's $75 an hour for me to research and pull these, I got to print this stuff to get to you, put it in a binder so that you can understand it and make sure that you know all the pieces that's going to be necessary for you to get your in game. So
you said a big piece when you said the board of directors.
Oh man,
Daryl said, "What are your office hours?" She said 9 to 5, like on 5 heartbeats.
But the thing of it is, people don't do the homework to know and understand what a nonprofit is. A nonprofit is a public charity. We talked a lot about the money piece. You are a founder because it was your brainchild. It was your, cousin who passed away from it, or whatever it is that caused you to have this mission and desire, right? But a public charity is run by a board of directors. That's how the state and the federal government has set it up. If you are a nonprofit, you have to have a board. Now, the board does not need to be 20 people. The more people, the more problems, especially in the beginning. You need 3. You need a president, a treasurer, and a secretary. That's all you need for the IRS. That's all you need for the Secretary of State. You have to have 3 people. That is your board. All those other people who have been there, support you, want to help you, I tell my clients, you create an advisory board for them. Those are the folks who come, who fry the chicken, they put up the chairs, they make sure everybody's straight, they stuff in the backpacks, whatever it is that you need them. Those they do have some skin in the game. They are definitely connected to your mission and vision. You do want to have conversations with them about your strategic planning and what you might want to do. But your executive board, who makes the decisions about the organization, who knows what's coming in and what's going out, who knows when so-and-so dropped the ball and all that stuff, your business of the business, that is your core 3 people. And then you have your advisory board.
And repeat those core 3.
President, secretary, and treasurer.
This nonprofit
don't
sounds more
necessarily
stressful
need-
than for profit.
It is. It is. So
when you do
it's
it,
a lot.
rethink that.
Hurry, here we go.
I compare-
the conference. They talking about them saying and talk. Now you tell me they sound like a lot.
I mean, when you
Shouts out to
seriously,
Chris. She's a lifesaver.
I don't know.
Because
Wait, she
it's-
just threw us under the bus.
Yeah, I
Like,
know, that's-
but I mean, because it's true. It really is a lot. And if you're not, somebody said, it's not that people don't want the information; they don't know where to get the information. I'm sorry, I get it, but I also understand that if this is what you want to do, there's a certain level of education and research you need to do.
gotta put in the work.
Period.
There's a whole lot. She's given us,
I'm not-
in the
you know,
30 minutes, a
Stare
lot.
down for those. What's the stare down? I believe her.
I'm still because I'm making sure, like,
See what I went
to
to.
recap the first half.
See what I
Let's
went
recap just so those who missed it got it. First of all, there's a lot of tax documents and legalities behind having a nonprofit. You have to track every dollar and turn it in and make sure to keep running, that you keep telling what you keep doing. Then you have to make sure that you got a team of people, a board of directors that make the decisions. Which I'm gonna ask you a question about that,
I
because
wanna
your
be a
directors
silent
can
partner.
bite you, knock you out too.
Oh, yes.
But you also have to make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. You can't just be like, I'm gonna start a nonprofit and all the money gonna flowing in. Because she also just mentioned you got to be running and showing you doing the work for 2 years
For most-
before
yes.
they start giving you
That's
grants.
crazy because a lot of people getting nonprofits been doing the work for profit 5 or 6 years. And my whole thing is like it sounds more simplified. We would just have events and say we could take this portion of the money and we could dedicate to the community.
That's what she's just said.
No. That's what we're saying now.
Because she said, if you want to give to people, you can give to people. But the idea that you can give to people, start a nonprofit, and you're gonna be rolling in grants is not realistic.
No.
Enrolling with grants. How important is a grant writer to a nonprofit?
Let me say this: a grant writer understands the language of the funder.
So
Okay?
like an agent with a sports.
Right. They understand the contracts. They understand a whole lot of stuff that you may not understand. You just want to play basketball. I know I just want to serve the kids. If this is the person who's going to give me some money to do what I said I want to do, there are certain things in your application that needs to be said. There's words. I worked on a grant recently, and my grant writer is, I have two. We have a chemistry. We flow. We work together. And because I had most of the stuff that she needed, it made it easier. And it was like, so we can be on the phone. Okay, so I did this. Now send me that. And I'm reading and we go. It's a lot of work. It's an application. A grant is an application. That is all it is. It is these questions you need to answer for this funder. But if your wording is not meeting what you don't get to the next course. So everybody did the Richland, most nonprofits in this area did the Richland County grant, right? And it was so funny because
Wait till she finish. You'll see why not everybody jumped on that boat.
Everybody didn't jump on the boat, but when they put it out, they did all this marketing about this money. That grant was $16 million that came in for Richland County.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of money in terms of the applications, what was asked for was $104 million. They got so many that they ended up having to get a third party to do the grant review and what have you. Those grants went in and it was extended in September or October.
Mm-hmm.
We still haven't found out anything yet.
And there was a special number, because most people have their DUNS number. There was a special number that people had to have, and a lot of people didn't have it yet because it took too long to get them back.
That we didn't need it for the county. Oh, okay. So that was also another thing. People who don't do the research for nonprofits. DUNS numbers are if you are looking to do any government grants, okay, county government may not necessarily count as that, but the federal government, anything from SAMS.gov, grants.gov, anything from the federal government, SAMHSA and all of those If you know, then you know, because you're looking at me like, okay, yeah, them people.
I'm looking at you like I'm blown.
I understand.
You used
See, Ian and
to
I got
have.
Chris.
You used to have a DUNS number to even be able to get on and have an account to do those applications.
That's right.
That gave you a number for your company. But now they've done away with the DUNS and they don't accept. Now, DUNS is good for your for-profit business. You need that for,
your LLC business credit.
building your business credit, all that stuff. It is still a viable thing. But for nonprofits under grants.gov for the government, they got their own number. They took it out of that private system and they have their own number. And if I'm not mistaken, it has started moving now.
It's finally.
Because it was a process to go through to, do the application, whatever, to get this particular number. And because if you're doing an application, if your application doesn't have all the pieces on that are starred, it doesn't go. So that's one of those things, that number. But if you refuse, and I keep using the word refuse, and I say refuse because there's information out there. There's lots of free information. There's lots of people who have information. Yes, you have to make an investment to get some stuff. But if you refuse to do the work to really understand what you're getting into, whether it's that you partner with someone who can go to the meeting and bring it back, however you choose to do it. If you're not going to do that, then this is not the area that you need to be in.
Right.
Find somebody who's doing what you want to do. Sit on that board. Join that organization. Be the next. I would love to have somebody come and volunteer to be the executive. You want to work with? I had one more. Want to be working with girls? Okay. First of all, what you been doing with? Have you been? You got a church group? What you doing?
You can't get the question out.
Like, because it irks my soul. If you have only been working with animals, and here you come talking about something you want to do something with children.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how about you? Okay, you gonna bring the pets?
How y'all coexist?
Right. Figure, and that's what I would love to see people do. Figure out how to do what God has called you to do. Because what happens when you start putting yourself into situations and you then get messed up because you didn't do your due diligence, the people who God has called to you, they can't access you.
That's right.
They can't access you. The guys who need you won't be able to get to you because you ain't where you need to be. So do your due diligence, because whether I have a 501 or not, I'm gonna keep working with the women.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, been doing it, gonna do it. That's just who I am. That's just who I am. So if you're gonna do the work, you're gonna do the work. If you're gonna do it on this level, then do it on that level. If not, it's okay. There's plenty of others. I have been thinking very hard about doing some partnerships with some people so I can get some things off my plate because I don't want to do this other stuff.
Right.
Nonprofits are not a get rich quick scheme.
Oh, we get rich with
it is the greatest way to occupy a whole heap of your time because of the level of papers and different things you have to do and keep doing. And that was when we talked about entrepreneurship and financials, and people were like, oh, but nonprofits are community. No, it's a job that you give your time to. And you push money in to push it back out, but it's supposed to keep going. And you are giving a realistic view, because just like helping the community became a trend, I want to start a nonprofit became a trend. One question we got was, where did Tamika ask on that one? So realistically, what's the plus of being a nonprofit? You got to really want to give to the people that you were talking about you want to work with, because there's a lot. It's a lot of tax documents. It's a lot of state documents. It's a lot of paperwork, grants, like you just said. And I want you to expand on that one, the federal grants.
I've been working with a nonprofit since 2016. And one of the things that, is a plus and a minus for them is they're a full volunteer ministry. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're a volunteer ministry, they don't do grants, because if you do not have staff that's going to manage it administratively, then you're going to find yourself in trouble. So what they had tried that type of stuff, but people would come in, I can get some money and from whoever, what have you, and they might do that. They come in, they spend the money, and they're gone. Because hello, why stick around? You're not getting paid.
Right.
She made a big point
Volunteers
about that.
are a great resource. It will help you keep your organization going. But if you don't have, I have been so blessed recently to have someone at Hannah House who can handle the volunteers coming and handle all of the thousands of people wanting to donate bags of clothes and shoes and stuff like that.
I got 4 bags of that.
And then we got like 10 pairs of shoes.
I'm so happy to say it.
Kawan, you had me
we don't have to
scared
worry
at
about
the
what we
conference
send
because Kawan was teaching and she said, all grants ain't for everybody. And when they go like the $60 billion, the $1 million they gave out, people are like, oh, I'm gonna go out there and give me about $75,000 in grants. What kind of microscope do you put yourself under when you go get a grant from the federal government with commas?
You know that's my word, right? Listen, I'm gonna tell you, like
Commas
I told
matter.
them then, the more commas and zeros, the more scrutiny. Don't nobody care what you're doing with your little $15,000. Don't nobody care what you're doing with anything under $50,000.
So
The
stop
more,
at 49.
let's just say the more money, the more
Set your
problems.
market 35K and you'll be all right. That's all I heard.
Stop at 49.
But
How we bring them out.
But that's, as sad as it is, if you're able to run your program effectively with that, if I tell you all the stuff that we did with our girls for the year for 15 grand, you'd be like, come on, I could pay 15 grand for y'all to keep doing that every year. Like for real, because it was all in the program.
That's right.
Whatever I can get donated, I got donated. And it was all just in the program. The girls meet once a month. We do a whole week in the summer and we good. But we made sure that we did what we said we were going to do with the girls. They're authors. They did books. They got conversations cards. They did a podcast. Like we made it holla. But that's because it was about them.
Right.
It wasn't about me.
Right.
It wasn't about flash and show and because that's what a lot of people want to do it for. But if your purpose is I want to help to decrease poverty. I want to. One of my assignments that I do with my new nonprofits is you need to make at least a minimum of 10 objectives for your company. Okay. If you have not written down 10 objectives for your company, again, people fund certain things. If you don't know what this money is going to do, then why are we going to give you money? So if your programs are going to help reduce teen pregnancy, make, less STDs amongst girls 8 to 18, like I'm real clear on who I serve, how I serve, and there's a certain language that it needs to be. You can't go in there talking about something. I want to just help the kids. I just want dads to be better dads. No, because when dads be better dads, we reduce recidivism because the dad don't go back to jail because he's in his kid's life. The kids don't go to jail because the dad is in his life. There's very specific things that happen because of the activities. Another thing, if you don't know what those specific things are that happen because of the activities that your company is doing, then how in the world are you going to articulate that on paper for anybody to give you anything? This is the work that needs to be done. I had a company that I worked with that they didn't know what they were going to do. They just wanted to honor their loved one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 ways to go about this. This one decided to meet the company and what have you, and we finally, and it took us a long time and a lot of money to get to the place where they actually have a plan. It was you're marketing a company that has no purpose yet. How are you going to reduce gun violence or whatever the issue is, right? How are you going to do that? Deal with brain cancer, whatever it is. You can't just say I'm gonna, we're gonna bring awareness to brain cancer in Black girls.
So what if a company says I'm gonna get I wrote a grant and now I got a $50,000 grant to give scholarships to college kids, right?
Okay, so let me make sure this is real clear. That's a foundation. If you're going to be taking in money to give out money,
say that again.
That's not a regular 501c. You can't do that.
So we can't give money for scholarships to
On
go
your
to-
501 application, it asked you if you was going to be giving people money. You said no.
Because you became a charitable event.
Sweet
I think I'm gonna
Jesus.
just convert back to we want to do it from the heart. I want to do it from the
Jesus.
Listen,
I want
that's a different designation.
This is
under
a break it
IRS.
down.
Because we're doing stuff to fuel our
I
purpose,
understand
our
that, but if
passion.
you got a specific determination from the IRS that says you're this type of organization, don't begin to do activities that are under a different type of organization. Okay. So if you didn't do the application, so you might not know the questions that were asked and that you said no to. Okay. So if you said no, then you are not a foundation because that's not what you said you was going to be. A foundation exists specifically for a particular purpose. They have a different NAICS code, NAICS code, which all businesses, nonprofit or not, have. So if that code says, you know, whatever it is that is attached to your business, which is also attached to your EIN, because you had to say what kind of company this was, all of those things need to match. Because again, you don't want to find yourself getting that knock, like you raising money and you're giving money and your nonprofit is not one that's supposed to be doing that.
But if there's a
And
person
then
that wants to
if you
give
did
like a
not do-
license,
and then if you did that for, you know, the short form, but saying that you were going to be under $50,000, but you don't raise way more than that for this, you know, scholarship, it's just a different designation. It's not, you know, anything, you know, just it's not what you said you were going to do.
Right. It's like
Even though you're still doing good.
There you go. You deviated from the script.
so if the school, like if a CDL school says, we'll donate 3 courses to you, give us 3 men from your foundation, they can come take the courses with us. This is our giving to you. They can write off on their taxes that they donate the courses,
Absolutely.
but you just can't give that dad that money to go take that course.
Absolutely. Because technically you received it, but you paid the school. So it's not like
You don't
it
give
became-
people money.
It did not become
So I
a
get
part
it.
of your income.
I get the institution money, I can't get the individual money.
If it's under $50,000, you can receive any funds. Okay, you receive the funds. You do what you say you're going to do with the funds. But if you're giving out cash, as in scholarships and different things like that, that is not in your mission, unless you were set up to do that. That's a different application.
So can you apply for grants if you're just being good at your heart and you're not a 501c? They're just
It depends
said
on
that you
whoever
could
the
look at the
funder
money.
is. There are grants, even at Richland County grant. I did it under my for-profit. There was money in there for small businesses.
Let that part out.
Yeah, that's-
Let that part out.
It's a breakdown. So that day when she sat down and she really broke down like the stuff that you can do with a nonprofit,
It said
it's
small
mind-blowing.
businesses. It said small businesses. It said nonprofits. It served this one. It was it had a lot of stuff there.
I got to consult with my team. What we do.
it's a whole package.
So the whole
So you
team,
have
what
to
we
read the
do.
We got to
lingo
go back
in
to
it.
the drawing
And so
board.
you sit with her and you learn, okay, so there's ways around what you want to do, but you have to know how to do it right. You can't say, well, I got $50,000 to go and help kids in the colonies get college degrees. And then you get find out, oh, well, only 3 kids came in. So I'm gonna go take that money and buy crayons. Wrong.
I mean, even if you listen, you wrote down what your mission is. You wrote down, you know, they ask you on a few different places about what it is that you're going to do. Okay, you need to be able to show that the funds that came in, you utilized them to serve the people that you said you were going to serve. And it doesn't have to be detail for detail, but it needs to be very clear that you did what you said you were going to do.
So let me ask you this. N has a organization
right.
You didn't
right.
mention
And,
helping nobody else.
Like, yeah, seriously, if you did not say that, this was a partnership, and grantors, the funders rather, they love partnerships. A grant that had 3 nonprofits on it serving the same, hey, that's $150,000.
I gotta stop at 49.
I gotta stop at 49,999.
Because now the internet, sorry, it dropped a couple of times when we were in there. But what he really asked her was, and he's really breaking it down a lot about what are you trying to do with it when you get your money and it comes in. What are you able to do with it? You don't get that stuff in and just decide what you choose to do with it. You have to do with what you said you're gonna do with it. What happens with it if you don't use all 50? Like when you have that left over.
There's no leftover or rollover. You have to just, when you do your taxes, you claim how much money you brought in. I mean, whether it's you can't bring in, if you bring in more than that and you plant that on your taxes, you certainly can't do a postcard. You need to do a full 990 easy. Okay.
You say you charge 75? I think you cutting yourself short with all this.
No, don't talk
listen.
that, man.
Well, because
we still want that price.
Wait a minute. I already asked you, did you get the discount?
people will take the idea and be like, oh, I'm gonna get a 501c3 and I'm gonna get a nonprofit. And I'm gonna be rolling in it. I'm telling you, Kuan had me shook when I was in that meeting. I was like, you're really limited on what you can do.
Back there, like, bro, where are you?
He ain't lying. I was like, you got to listen. Nah, we got you, sis. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I don't want to scare people, but I want people to be hypersensitive to it, to know. Tamika said, yeah, it's not for her. I get it. You don't want to be limited. But what you do, she has a for-profit business. Do what you do. You can donate as a for-profit because you're going to make however much you want to make. Whoever you decide to do it for or give to or whatever, you can write it off for your taxes as a for-profit or as a individual rather. So you don't, you would get that person's or nonprofit's EIN number for your taxes. They should give you a receipt if they are receiving whatever from you. If you are giving them food and say you're catering for them and they're writing it off, that amount of how much money it would have cost, whether they paid you or not, is what you give them a receipt for, because that's for their taxes to be able to say we received $180,000 worth of in-kind donation, whether it be goods or services, but that's not cash.
So just to go back, just reiterate, the best thing to do is to have your LLC, donate from the heart, let your passion be your purpose. And stay away from that.
If you want to be good to people, be good to people.
Like.
But if you dip into that art,
to be good to people, and there's so much work we want to do and we want to be able to do.
It's not that. It's like you want to be good to people. You could be stepping on somebody's toes just because you were good to the bread man and you said you wanted to be good to the Philly cheesesteak man. It's still food. I
understand that, but it's just a matter of making sure that you are under the right umbrella that you need to be.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's okay to change it. It's okay to go back and say, hey, we're going to do another application.
That's crazy.
And that's the thing. I mean, you have the right to change your mind. You have the right to say, you know what? I mean, nonprofits are, did you know the NFL is a nonprofit?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I did not. So how are they not paying Lamar Jackson?
Wait.
How do you even
now you just opened up all the words.
How do they make billions
teams
of dollars?
are owned by who they're owned by. That's not. They're a part of an association.
That's
just
like a board.
That's a board, and they're just like a fraternity. Those are nonprofits. They can raise money. They can do what they do. They give the scholarships and what have. It's a membership organization. It's a different designation. You have to operate within the designation that you do. We have been getting, because people are really interested in doing more community-based work, we're getting, they lowered the fee, they made it easier for us to jump in, but they also made it easier for a lot of people to get all screwed up.
So it's a setup.
It's all a setup. It's all a setup. Is the NBA nonprofit too?
I don't know. I have to look.
But you just know the NFL. Well, I tell you.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars, and we a
That's
nonprofit.
crazy, bro.
But
That's crazy.
hello, Susie Street Coleman, breast cancer, multi-million-dollar. It's a nonprofit. All of it goes back into research, and they raised them all those walks all over the country, right? Those pink breast, well, and they have high administrative costs, I'm sure.
So
But
why I can't pay my administrators? Like, how do I pay my administrators on board? They don't get paid.
I'm not on the board because on your IRS application you said no.
You cannot pay your
You
board.
cannot pay your board.
I like to resign.
You cannot pay your board.
Thank you, Scott.
Oh man.
No, you can't pay your board. And that's why she also, so earlier today we were talking, there was a person who built a structured, a nice nonprofit, built it. He built it. And his board kicked him out.
So let me tell you how that happened. Okay. As I said, more money, more problems. Okay. He built the board, he built the organization. When I first met him, I met this man at a conference specifically for reentry under George Bush. And he had a transitional home for people just coming out of incarceration. I think it's like a 3-bedroom place or whatever, right?
Halfway house. Halfway home, halfway in. You mess up, we'll see you again. Go ahead, go on.
Make me sick.
That's exactly what it was. Just okay, so that was under George Bush years ago. So when, I think what he said, 2014, I think it was. So all these years, he built it. He got recognized. You know, he posted child for it, the whole bit. Well, one of the things that would, again, the more money, you know, they wanted to give him more money. And so they told him they wanted him to diversify his board. So he diversified. He diversified his board, but also because he was the executive director, he wanted to get a salary. On your board, you cannot have a salary. So he stepped down from his board and became an employee.
See?
As an employee,
keep listening.
You can be
Fired.
You're not on the board. So he should have also, you know, what he should have done was he should have put himself as a contractor and stepped down and maybe made himself a non-voting vice president or whatever. But that's all what should be outlined in your bylaws. So if your bylaws are not clear, and most of the bylaws that I do, I say that the president, or rather not the president, the founder cannot be, voted from the board or whatever, unless it was criminal.
Lucky you.
Unless it was something, if it was,
Lucky you trying to vote me out. Last week, all 6 of them would sit down and eat without me. I was like, you don't know a rule when they're having a meeting without you. It's about you. They go, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I mean, so you know, and there was nothing he could do because he didn't change his bylaws. He did not put himself in a position where he could step back in. He didn't protect himself. He thought he was good. We're talking, you know, they had a $2 million grant. So the more money.
Of course, he wanted to become a
employee.
Yeah, like
he
I want to make.
He's trying to pull a Lucius Lion.
Trying to take over the empire.
So what ended up happening, they kicked him out or what have you. And then once they did the audit and all that, the state did whatever they did, of course, and they found out that, you know, he did not mismanage anything. He didn't steal any money. Again, he's doing the work because he's been doing the work. You know, at that point it was too late. But you know, yeah, they ended up owing him. It was bad. But he of course started another one.
Because that's what his passion truly was.
Absolutely, and what he did, he moved to another city. He started another one and did, instead of like, I think they might have only had 1 or 2 houses. I mean, he's got.
Listen,
like
I'm not
building.
moving to Orangeburg, bro.
But you will go to Denmark. I'm messing with you. So basically, honestly, so the whole premise of this 501c3 is that, like, your passion should fuel your purpose, right?
Your passion should definitely fuel your purpose. A passion without any kind of purpose is a hobby.
Correct. I mean, look at the camera and say it, because like you said,
It was kind of directed at you.
Yeah. I'm
That's
one of
kinda
those
directed
people
at
in the
you.
camera too. Like
Passion without purpose is a hobby. It is just something that you actually really enjoy doing, and it's absolutely great to be able to do that. Those things are what fuel us. We're passionate about it. I could be passionate about braiding kids' hair or keep babysitting. That doesn't mean I need to open up a daycare. I like children. I'm really passionate about kids. My grandkids, my children are my favorite people in the world, but that doesn't mean that I need to do that. Unless I got the money to pay people to do it for me.
We told y'all that the second Wednesday of the month would be an entrepreneurial. It would be a financial conversation. The consensus was, well, nonprofits are a community. Wrong.
Don't get one.
Nonprofits are businesses. And that's why we brought this in on our Business Wednesday. Because if you don't know and you jump and you move, you could put yourself in a position that you will grow to hate something that you've always loved doing because of the things behind it.
No.
So
That is so true.
if you don't know, you'll grow to hate something that you loved in the beginning because of the work that goes behind it, the legalities of it. Because basically the 501c3 puts the government in your business of what you wanted to do for people. So I like feeding people. If I do that 501c3, I can't go out there now and be like, I got $50,000 to feed people. No, now I got to tell the government to feed somebody.
Even if you don't have it, you can't even in the park, and you can't go to the park and just show up and feed people.
No, you can't.
You can't do it
You
anymore.
can't go to restaurants that are throwing out all kind of food.
There's actually a program now. There are certain nonprofit organizations that actually can pick up the restaurant food.
Really?
They can't just get, yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I used to do it for a few different places. So there's systems in place for a reason, because you don't want to give somebody something, they get sick and they talk about it, and you don't have your proper coverage and all that stuff. And boards of directors, there is insurance. You should have your D&O insurance.
Listen, we got a
Because if it's a
501c3
nonprofit
for sale. we got a 501c3.
Because if someone decided they wanted to sue your company, they're going to sue the board, right?
You don't have to do the paperwork. It's already good. If you want it, hey, dial 1-800. Come get this 501c3.
What was that insurance again?
D&O insurance, directors and officers.
And
Yes.
the significance of that.
The D-No.
Because it needs to protect you. If someone is going to sue Kicking It With Dads, right?
Whoa, let's not speak that into existence.
Oh, now they want to rebuke you.
We got some chicken and fish. And $1,000 per.
And now you got to sign a waiver before you get a piece.
That's prize money. That's
We still
pocket.
get it out of our pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you should be writing it off on your personal taxes as a donation to the nonprofit.
I'll do that first.
Nah, the money gotta come back.
Today was a conversation that was
but
needed.
You should, and then in order to attract people, who have the pull, the purpose of the board is to bring money into the organization and further the mission, right?
That's right.
So if they are people who are able to pull in what you need them to pull in and do what you need them to do to further the mission, those people want to be protected. Because if your organization is sued or whatever, y'all's names is on that IRS form. That's who they say own it. It might be one person on that EIN, but there's 3 people named at least on that IRS form. So if that's the owner,
And picture 2.
That's my brother Bobby.
but I mean that's the thing. You want to protect yourself, so you need to have your D&O insurance. A lot of people, start out. Of course, you may not necessarily do it at your first year or 2, but you definitely need to get you some quotes. You need to know where to go, who to do it with, and all of that. Do your due diligence.
I came in at 7:00 ish.
Listen, I got 75 for the first hour.
I said that we were going to come in here and make sure she dropped gems about a nonprofit. But I told you, use diamonds. But I said to make sure you marked your calendars for March the 18th. If you are out here You have a nonprofit. You want a nonprofit. You've used the words
They
nonprofit.
don't want it no more.
You filed with a nonprofit,
Oh my God.
especially if you got it. There's no reason that March 18th should not be standing room only.
We're doing it all virtual this year.
You
This
can be
time.
online. You don't even have to go stand in the building.
Yep,
Just
we're doing it virtual.
listen.
And it's $47. We're doing our first of a 3-part series for board training, board development. So we're going to talk about the roles of the board, all the different, pieces of the nonprofit from the beginning, specifically how your board of directors needs to operate. I have a great partner in crime, Dr. Shorney Ward, and she is just phenomenal. And what's great is that she understands the language that needs to be spoken in terms of nonprofits. She's also one of my grant writers. And it's you need a team. You need a team, and I'm excited that I get to educate with her. And she's done quite a few applications for some of my folks. Good stuff.
$47 can save you a world of headache.
Oh yes. Lord.
So it is important to look into educating your board, your team, yourself. Do not get out there and let someone tell you, oh, you can get you a nonprofit and make all kind of money. Wrong.
Right.
You need to make sure this is what you want to do, and you need to educate yourself on what you want to do. One of the things that we're going to make sure that we do every second Wednesday of the month is give you insight on the things that are trending. Nonprofit is trending. Buying a house is trending. That's going to be one we're going to bring to you. Budgeting is trending. Starting a business and having an LLC is trending. You are not going to start a business today and be driving a big car on tomorrow. It's a world in that. It's that world in that life. It's a lot of hustle. So we are going to get people to come in and tell you the real behind the dream. That way you know what you're getting into and how to educate yourself to make it work. So again, you can check our page. We're going to link you to Kawan's page.
Right.
But March 18th, you should have trouble logging in because there's so many people already on there.
Amen. And
Because
it's not,
that's going to save you a lot.
It's not just South Carolina, because I work with people all over. A lot of people say, well, it's just no. This is a board is regardless of what state you're in.
That's true.
So make sure that you share this with anybody from outside. And you can find everything on sheiscoachk.com.
We're going to post sheiscoachk.com. We are going to post the registration information you need for the 18th.
Right.
We're going to continue to push it. There's nothing wrong with giving back to the community. There's nothing wrong with wanting to help people, but it is vital that you know the rules behind what you're doing.
Herc, I don't know, spreading a little the metro, it get kind of dangerous all of a sudden.
Spread a little the IRS. Listen, bro, our mantra is the same, but the people we dealing with don't change. And what I mean by that, like, it's whatever we raise for KIWD, that's what we utilize for. That's cool with us.
Yeah.
That's what we all use it for, but still.
Yeah. But it's crazy that you can't give from your heart when you're just a 501c3, and that's what its purpose is.
I mean, you can give from your heart. You want to give.
I'd rather just be her.
The 501c3, what she just basically says, the 501c3 is not saying I want to give from my heart. The 501c3 is saying all this money I'm about to move, don't tax me on it.
Gotcha. I got you. I got her. Coach Kate, I got you.
The mission is given from your heart.
Absolutely. I want to give you a salute because I remember when we first linked up and you had these ideas and I had these ideas. You was over here on
Broad
River, and then
let me tell y'all, right? Because Daryl just had up his defense, right? Daryl did a self-defense,
in the same room, across the hall.
Yeah, we did a class for getting our gun license. CWP. Thank you. I couldn't think of what that was. But what was so funny is I was laughing. Now, the first time I ever meet her, he's my partner for the CWP.
He didn't know you was spiced with a wild with a leather jacket.
I know she was gangster.
And she do taxes. You missed all that face you missed that one time.
Listen, so here we go, and I gotta be back to back with him.
This guy.
We're hurt of all people.
yes. But also that was a real interesting time. My nonprofit wasn't making a whole lot of money, and I closed my office, and Herc moved me from Broad River to Hannah House.
See, you
don't bring that type of stuff.
you've been moving with
He
the
didn't
heart.
charge me either.
What would I charge you? Spread love the Metro way.
He didn't want to follow his taxes. That's why he didn't want to follow his
I
taxes.
know how to write it off.
I know how to write it off.
I know how to write
It
it
was
off.
from the heart. Just give me a piece of gum.
But it's one of those things that, in all the years of doing this work, I get to have a little piece in all of this amazing organization.
Yes,
doing
goodness.
amazing things all over, not just the Metro. So it's pretty dope.
Get your training. Get educated. Get beyond
$47
Google.
and show up.
Get your $47 and show up. All you got to do is log in. You log in to Facebook and everything else. We
I would
appreciate you
also
watching
say,
us.
make
But
sure
log
that
in.
it's not just for founders and actual, your advisory board. If you want to be on a board, you should show up, because if somebody from the board don't come, everybody needs to get the education.
We got
But
a Chris.
yes, make sure that your Chris comes.
Let me register today while I'm sitting here. Because they're going to be like, Chris, you're registered. I'm going to get
And a
17 messages.
Yeah, that's crazy though. This is getting info. It really was.
This is great.
It's vitally important.
Really
You got to be
appreciate it.
careful with the things that you do. We're in a world right now that being nice can get you in trouble if you don't have yourself backed up. So make sure you back yourself in all that you do, and make sure you know the legal routes behind the decisions you make. And we're going to keep bringing this information. We're going to keep talking fun and battle of sexes and music and all that great stuff, but we're not going to ever leave you out in this world and not set you up for success.
Correct.
We're not gatekeepers. We're going to tell you, call her. $75 an hour, depending on what you need. Hold up. We're not saying that's a standard. That's just a start.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Clarify that.
$47 on March the 18th will give you some insight on the board of directors. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying know what you're doing.
You
That's
can't
all.
help the poor if you wanted them, and this will keep you out the poorhouse. Because just giving from your heart is not enough. It's serious. Like when you're trying to give from your heart, you also take from Uncle Sam, and he want to know exactly what you're doing with your dollars.
That's
So we got a 501c3 facility. You cut through the paperwork. We can change all.
It's already
No, but that's thank you so much. We
I
appreciate you.
appreciate y'all and all that you
Thank
do. I really
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
I wish I had more questions, but you was hitting me with so much info. I didn't even know that.
Try to
next.
spin it.
I didn't know what next next. So I was like,
I'm
God,
glad that I was able, but really, if people have questions, they need to reach out. If you have a nonprofit and you're not sure about stuff, the best client is the one who's informed and who tries to at least understand the information. That makes a world of a difference.
sounds like a Chris.
Yeah.
And with that,
Ooh, child, I don't know where this Chris is at, but listen, this Chris Stowe is going to get us something to eat. And I wish y'all all the best. If you have any questions, again, she is Kwan. Was it Kwan N. Finch? MBA on Facebook. You can also go to
She is Coach K.
Coach
or
K.
nonprofitleadersconference.com.
All we're saying is find help and get your answers.
Amen.
We have her shared on all of our pages. You will find her on Conversations That Suit page. We're going to make sure we keep her posted on the Instagram, which is CTS_Podcast S2. This will be listed, and we'll even give you a breakdown on the YouTube page so you can gather that information. What we are saying is there is no excuse not to know, because we just gave you a whole gateway full of information.
and if you haven't, like and subscribe.
Please do.
Please like and subscribe. Oh, a big thank you. We reached 1,000. We shot it out last week.
We did.
We did.
Was I,
We definitely have
1.1. Was I late again?
He's a little bit of both.
Well, we got 1,100 subscribers. So, yeah.
Thank y'all.
We
Thank y'all.
thank y'all so much. We thank y'all so much. This is a station where we want to educate, relate, and just get it out to the community. So we thank y'all so much. We want to thank you for coming through as well.
Absolutely.
Any closing remarks you want to give them before we let them ride? Because we're going to put you everywhere. They don't call, that's on them.
There you go. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions, y'all. That was great. Just reach out. I'm sure that we can figure out how to help you do what God has called you to do.
The right way, the legal way, to keep you out of jail way, to make sure you use your money right way. Call Coach K. Okay.
Bars.
All of that.
Ian was gonna, you want to follow that?
No. I'm gonna say good night.
Yeah, he looks serious now. We're gonna have a conversation a little bit. Y'all have a blessed night. Good night.
Not Fred the God, so Chris the God.
Chris the God.
Now I'm a rapper. I'm a rapper, a secretary. It's a whole lot going on. Next week, Battle of the Sexes. Please tune in. It'll be giggles then, but the day though, $47. You know what to do, right? March 18th. Y'all have a good one. Good night.
Later.
Peace.
Ooh, and you